What's up? I'm having to record this on my phone because I'm at a hotel and I don't know how to use my little bullshit webcam on the laptop. I just Disaster versus Cassidy is tomorrow, and I don't usually do battle predictions and stuff because battles are very unpredictable, especially when it comes to the judges. Like even if it's undeniably like take Pat Stay versus Marv One for example. There's nobody that agrees that Marv won that. But somehow, excuse the pun, but somehow, if you watch it, the judges gave it to Marv. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But that's what happened. Maybe it's just a URL thing. Was that on URL? Anyway, the thing you got to know about this Disaster versus Cassidy thing. Disaster. I just watched Disaster's the first time he's talked about it. It was at the first of this month. I was watching his I don't know if it was like a little blog. It wasn't really a blog. It's just him describing the stuff that he wrote for Cassidy. Like first he wrote it all, and then he woke up in the morning and forgot to save it, and it pissed him off so much that he spent like another 12, like 11, 12 hours just writing out the whole thing again better. And he based a lot of it off of M's cipher verse because M is a big influence to a lot of like even like me. And the thing is, me and Disaster have really similar styles, and it's really default. It's not a decision. It's just the way it comes out when we write. It just comes. That's just the way it ends up. So I speak from personal experience when I tell you it's really fucking hard to write this type of shit. And the way he's describing what he wrote, it's prolific, to say the least. He's saying that he outwrote M's cipher. I don't think M's cipher was that great, especially compared to a lot of the stuff that came out on the XV album, like the third verse on "Right for Me." But still, it's a very solid acapella he does. And if what Disaster's saying is true, that he's not gonna freestyle any of this, which is very rare for him because that's one of Disaster's strong points, is that he can freestyle really well. Like you'll never see him slip up because whenever he forgets his shit, he just picks it right back up with freestyle, and he can just go off the top until he remembers his shit and he just picks up where he left off. But he says he's not gonna do any of that for this battle. He's just gonna fucking go. It's all written. All three verses, all three rounds. It's just gonna be completely written, start to finish. And he says that it is easily the best work he's ever done. So, I mean, Cassidy's fucking retarded. And the special thing about this battle is Disaster, outside of the thing that I just watched, with him talking about what he's gonna do. But where he's talking about what he wrote, he hasn't said shit, which is rare for Disaster because he likes to talk a lot of shit. But he hasn't said shit. It's all been Cassidy on like Vlad TV, just talking shit about what he's gonna do and how Disaster ain't shit and he doesn't know what he's getting into and how Cassidy's beating like thousands of rappers and shit. But here's the deal: he's not beating thousands of noticed. That's not the word I'm looking for. He's not beating thousands of notable battle MCs who have time in the circuit. If any of that's true, he's just picking people off the street or in the studio or whatever, like battle me, and suddenly he fucking wins and calls it. Like if Disaster counted that, he's beaten hundreds of thousands of like you don't count those wins. And there's only like two Cassidy battles that you can watch, and one of them is all right. I'll give it to him. He is all right. He's better than what we saw Cannabis do. Cannabis got fucking steamrolled and then backed over and fucking steamrolled over one more time by Disaster. It's. I think Cassidy will put up a better fight, but if Diz, like I said, if what Diz is saying is true, it's going to be proportionally, it's going to be the same thing as Disaster versus Cassidy, or versus Cannabis. Disaster's a fucking beast. He's a fucking beast. And if what he's saying is true, is going to be some legendary shit. So it's no question to me that Disaster's going to beat him. But I guess why I'm making this is because there's a lot of people that seem to be questioning Disaster. especially like when you go into the comments and stuff. He gets a lot of downvotes and stuff, and I don't understand why, because I've never seen an artist write more. Like, cause you have to, when you're somebody like Disaster, he's doing like, he does so many double time flows and shit. And so many like multi-syllabic rhyming and all this shit. But he'll never use it again. He has to write 3 different fucking verses to use for one person for every fucking battle he does. That's a lot of writing and a lot of just pacing around your room or hotel, just memorizing that shit and working it all out in your head, and making sure you can get it, and getting the delivery ready and getting everything done just to use it once, and then you scrap it all and you do it again. It's like what Louis C.K. and George Carlin did with their comedy specials, except he's having to do 3 of them multiple times a year for different, like, Cassidy has no idea what he's getting himself into. He has no idea what he's getting himself into. And it's going to be fucking a biblical breakdown of this dude's career. And that's all I have to say on it. That's really all I have to say on it. What Disaster's about to do to Cassidy tomorrow is, like I said, if what he's saying in the video is true, it's going to be catastrophic. So that's it. I guess I'm making this because I'm so sure of how it's going to end up. I'm so certain of the outcome of this battle that it doesn't even need to be. It's not even a question. It's just a matter of how hard is Disaster really going to bring it. Of course, he's going to beat Cassidy, unless Cassidy's somehow paid off like Organic or whatever judges are going to be there. Unless he's like paid off Lush and all that, just to like millions of dollars to give it to him. It's going to be clear that it was paid off by how hard Disaster is going to bring. I have no more else to say. That's it. Even the Pat Stay battle, I still feel like Disaster won, and that's not me being biased, because I love Pat Stay. I love Pat. I think he's another one of my favorites. But if you notice Pat's 3rd round, which is what gave it to him, he didn't diss Disaster at all. All he did was talk about like why he hates battle rap, and he just cried about like what it's turned into and stuff. And it was a beautiful verse, but it wasn't relevant toward, like, he didn't diss Disaster at all. So I still think Disaster won that one, especially with that 2nd round shit Disaster did. Oh my god, when he rhymed that like, how are you a boss when that's not even part of your nature? Or like something about like, he rhymes like part of your nature and like got any paper, and he keeps rhyming that multi forever, and at the end he's like, and I still didn't use modulator, condom flavor, arbitrator, lost in space, or fucking it's so tell your mom I hate her, or yada yada, tell Bender I'm sorry player. And it's like, he's, the amount of work you have to do to not only write that shit down, but then memorize it all and then perform it when you're in just a room that's having all the oxygen sucked out of it like that. You have to be able to conserve your energy, and you have to know how to give it out in the proper bursts. And those are things that Cassidy just isn't trained to do. This is what Disaster does for a living. So it's like, even if somehow by the grace of Jesus, Allah, whatever you believe in, if somehow by the grace of God, Cassidy has something written better than Disaster, he's not going to be able to perform it and get it out as powerfully and as well, and he's not going to be able to execute it as well as Disaster, because he's not trained for that. Even the battles he's done are not in that environment where you're on like a stage, or you're in like a stadium that's filled with, not a stadium, but like a warehouse or whatever, that's filled with people sucking all the oxygen out of the air, and there's so much smoke going around, and you just have like a water bottle, like, and you got to bring it hard, and everybody's around you screaming and like talking shit to you, and then there's some people backing you up, and you got to like block all that out. And Disaster's good. Disaster doesn't even block that out. He takes it and brings it in as like a freestyle, and like he starts talking to the crowd, and like he makes it all rhyme and like, Disaster's going to obliterate Cassidy. And I don't know why Cassidy's sitting here talking all this shit, because Disaster's not. It's all Cassidy talking all this shit. And I don't know. That's that. So tune in tomorrow for it, because it's gonna be intense. And that's all I have to say on it. I'll see you guys later.